just being able to have that much fun with something so dangerous was actually, it brings a feeling in me that it's really hard to explain. For me, it's almost like, dancing with death. I smacked myself in the back, I burned my face. Ted has an amazing threshold of pain, and it's quite stunning sometimes when you see some of the things he does. I know that if I tried doing that, I would be in a lot of pain, and it hardly even phases me.
That's a second-degree burn, and there's a couple of first-degree burns in here, and I think I've got one back here. Yeah, that's almost third now. That's a regular occurrence for me.
Tedward's acceptance of pain is an inspiration, and Burn Club is a safe haven for those who can't resist the allure of fire arts.
I've always loved fire. Like my whole life since I was a little kid, wanted to play with it. I was always the one leaning too far into the fireplace. And when I saw a fire performance a couple years ago, just fell in love with it. I really communicate with fire. Yeah, there's like mutual respect relationship. It's a partner. And there's sometimes you can get a dance partner to do what you want, but you don't ever have control over it.
For Tedward, fire is not only an outlet for creative expression, it is the essence of his being.
I get here and I'm centered, I'm focused. This is my domain. Fire is sort of my life. It's friends, it's family, it's hobby. It's taking me everywhere.
While some religions use pain as a form of sacrifice and penitence, others approach it as a pathway to enlightenment. This footage from southern India in the 1930s shows a Hindu holy man, or sadhu, swinging from a pole that's attached directly to his back with steel hooks. For these spiritual seekers, followers of the Hindu divinity lord Murugan, pain is a vehicle for transcending the body and attaining liberation. For centuries, Native American tribes like the Sioux and the Mandan practiced a similar ritual called the Sundance. But there was a big difference. The hook was pierced in the front at the chest, a much more painful and deadly way to hang.
If you hang, like especially by the chest, by two piercings for like 20 minutes, you'll suffocate and die, your lungs fill with fluid.
The Sioux believed the agony of the Sundance gave warriors a glimpse into the spirit world and brought favor to the tribe. The U.S. government found the practice so disturbing that it banned it in 1881. From that point on, the Sundance went underground and fell below the radar of the non-native world. Almost.
These are the iron hooks that I finally made to be hung up in the Okipa and Sundance.
Fakir Mushafar is a devotee of tribal body rituals and an extraordinary master of pain. As a child in South Dakota, he grew up among the Sioux and was drawn to their culture and traditions, especially the Sundance.
The old men would talk in hushed tones about things like the Sundance and the big significance of it. I knew that this was not pain, this was not sorrow, this was not all the gloomy things that people thought it represented, but it was ecstasy and joy. These people were driving themselves into ecstatic states.
He pierced and tattooed himself when he was 14 and became obsessed with experimenting on his own body. At 17, he strapped himself to a cellar wall so tightly that he nearly asphyxiated. But instead of dying, he had an out-of-body experience.
And what I saw was my physical body lashed to the cold-in wall about 12 feet away. And from there on, I discovered that you could transcend the body and you leave it and go out into the unseen world and do adventuring there. I kept finding that I could get into these altered states and get some access to worlds that nobody else around me seemed to know existed. And for 30 years, that's what I did, but all in secret. It wasn't a soul I could trust. If anybody then had known what I was doing, they would have put me in the institution and thrown away the key, probably.
In the straight-laced 1950s, Fakir might have been the strangest man in America. basement, he did things to himself that would make a torturer wince. Hooking rows of lead fishing weights to his chest, binding his waist in a corset that would have asphyxiated a Victorian belle, lying on rows of razor-sharp axe blades, inserting knife-like rods through the fleshy part of his chest. He photographed it all, in secret, a modern primitive, as he called himself, whose experiments on his own body kept taking him to fascinating places.
You do these body rituals, and you go about it in a controlled, sane, and defined way. You can actually make any physical sensation stronger and stronger and stronger, and you can get an extreme state of ecstasy. And that's what the primitive people do. If you avoid pain, you're not going to get the lesson. If you avoid pleasure, you're not going to get the lesson. If you go gangbusters in both and you do it with common sense, you might make some progress.
After 20 years performing secret body rituals in his basement, the open-minded 1970s arrived, and Fakir stepped out into public view. Soon, he would attempt the most dramatic and life-threatening piercing. The chest hang of the Native American Sundance.